Hi everyone, this is Mr. Zhang, and today we'll be going over the math homework for Class P. This is for session U19. For number one, it says line AB is a perpendicular bisector of the segment CP, where P is not shown. P is the same as which of the following points. So AB is this line here that connects point A to point B. And this line is the perpendicular bisector. So a perpendicular bisector is under the keywords, and this word means that these two lines are perpendicular, which means they make 90 degrees or a right angle. And more than that, it's a bisector, and bisect means to cut into two equal pieces. So this point C, which is over here, to P, which we don't know where it is, but it has to be cut in half by this orange line. So it has to be equidistant, so it means that it's symmetric. P therefore has to be a point F, because this point C to P needs to be cut into two equal pieces by the orange line. And if point P is at F, the top piece will be 8, the bottom piece will also be 8. But the bottom piece will be -8 because it's going down, and down means negative. So it's perpendicular, and it is also a bisector. Next, for number 2, 1 year ago, Pat was 3 times his sister's age. Next year, he will be only twice her age. How old will Pat be in 5 more years? So to do these age questions, you have to do a chart. You have P and S for Pat and sister. So 1 year ago, we don't know how old Pat was. So we can call Pat just P, and then his sister will be S. Now, Pat is 3 times his sister's age. So sister was S, Pat will be 3 times S. Now, to go from 1 year ago to now, you'll have to add 1. And then next year, he will be twice her age. So 1 year into the future, it will be 3S plus 2 and S plus 2. And the relationship between 3S plus 2 and S plus 2 is that if you double S plus 2, it will be equal to 3S plus 2. Because that's what twice means. So if you double S plus 2, you get 2S plus 4. So that means that this 2S plus 4 is equal to Pat's age in the future, which is 3S plus 2. And here you can solve for S by subtracting 2S on both sides, and then subtracting 2. And you get that 2 is equal to S. So sister will be 2 years old. Pat will be 3 times that, or 6. And this was 1 year ago. Right now, Pat will be 7, and sister will be 3. And 1 year in the future, sister will be 4, Pat will be 8. So 4 is half of 8. So everything does make sense. But what we want to figure out is how old Pat will be in 5 more years. So if you just add 5, right now Pat is 7, so now if you add 5 years, Pat will be 12. So it's choice B. So to solve this question with age, you have to organize the information using a chart, and then to solve the equation. Next, for number 3, what is the length of side BC? So you have this triangle, and because you have a coordinate plane, this is actually a right triangle. And when you have right triangles, you can use Pythagorean theorem, which states that a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared in a ratio as shown. So here you have to figure out the sides. So to do that, I just look at the points from 2 comma 1 to 2 comma 6. This is 6 minus 1 or 5. And then from 2 comma 6 to 5 comma 6, 5 minus 2 is 3. So the hypotenuse would be c, which we don't know what it is, but we can solve for it. So c squared will be equal to 5 squared plus 3 squared, or 25 plus 9. So c squared is 34. C would be the square root of 34. That's choice C. Again, for this question, we have to figure out the right triangle and then use the Pythagorean theorem to solve for the missing side. Next, for number 4, in a group of 30 people, the average height is 6 feet 2 inches. Therefore, we can assume that Roman number 1 says everyone is 6 feet 2 inches. Well, that's not true. The average is just the total divided by the number of data. And it doesn't mean that everyone is the exact same height. Roman numeral 2 says most other people are 6 foot 2 inches. Again, that's not true. This is actually referring to the mode. We know nothing about the mode, or the most frequent number. And finally, Roman numeral number 3 says not all could be taller than 6 feet 2 inches. And here, this is actually true. And that's because if everyone was taller, then 6 foot 2 inches would be the minimum. And here, it's the average, not the minimum. So we know that there has to be some people shorter than 6 feet 2 inches. Some people could be taller than 2 inches. But Roman numeral 3 says not everyone could be taller than 6 feet 2 inches. And that is true, because if everyone's taller than 6 feet 2 inches, then the average will also be bigger than 6 feet 2 inches. So the answer is choice C. Next, for number 5, what is value of x? So you have line 1 is parallel to line 2. That's what the symbol means. And parallel means that these lines are not touching, and they just go on forever. Now, we can draw the symbol there to indicate that line 1 is parallel to line 2. And then the next piece of info that we can use is that this angle, which is 2x, is actually equal to this angle because we have what are known as corresponding angles. And corresponding angles show up when you have parallel lines, and this transverse line is cutting through this parallel line, and corresponding angles are equal, so the bottom angle is also equal to 2x. So you actually have the 3 angles of a triangle. You have the 60 degrees up here, this 2x, and this x plus 30. And you know that a triangle adds up to 180 degrees. So you know that 60 plus 2x plus x plus 30 has to be equal to 180 degrees. And when you combine like terms, the 2x plus the x becomes 3x, and 60 plus 30 becomes 90. So you know that 3x plus 90 is equal to 180 degrees. Subtract 90 on both sides. You get that 3x is equal to 90. Then you divide by 3, and you get that x is equal to 30 degrees. And that's choice E. So here's a summary for this first page. Next, for number 6, a fraction has a value of 2/5. The numerator is decreased by 2 and the denominator is decreased by 1, or increased by 1, then the resulting fraction is 1/4. What is the value of the numerator in the original fraction? So you don't know what the original numerator is, so you can call that n over d, and the denominator is z, and this is equal to 2/5. Now, it doesn't have to be equal to 2, the denominator doesn't have to be equal to 5, because it could be simplified. So n over d is the unsimplified, the actual fraction. Now you're increasing the numerator by, decreasing the numerator by 2, so that's going to be n minus 2. And you increase the denominator by 1, that's d plus 1. And this is now equal to 1/4. So from here you can actually do 2 cross multiplications, because we have 2 equivalent fractions or 2 proportions. You just cross multiply to solve. That'd be 4 times n minus 2 is equal to d plus 1. And when you distribute, you get 4n minus 8 is equal to d plus 1. Now for the other fraction, you have 5n is equal to 2d. And here you have two equations and two variables. You want to solve for n, so you want to substitute for d. So if you divide by 2 on both sides, you get that the denominator d is equal to 5n over 2. And you could take this and substitute in for the variable d for denominator in the other equation. So that will give you 4n minus 8 is equal to, instead of d plus 1, you have 5n over 2 plus 1. Now from here, you can multiply everything by 2. And you get 8n minus 16 is equal to 5n plus 2 once you distribute. And here you can subtract 5n on both sides. You get 3n and then add 16 to both sides. So you get that 3n is equal to 18, and when you divide by 3, the n is equal to 6, which is choice E. Now you can check your work on the side here. So if you're saying that the numerator is equal to 6, the denominator, so 6 over d would be equal to 2 over 5. So here the denominator has to be equal to 15 because you want to multiply by 3. So if you have this fraction 6 over 15, if you decrease the numerator by 2, and then you increase the denominator by 1, you get 4 over 16, which is equal to 1/4, which is exactly what you have over here. So you know that everything is correct. So the answer is choice E. Next, for number 7, the cost of a box of 12 pens is $7.20, and a box of 16 pencils costs $4. What's the cost of 3 pens and 3 pencils? You know that 12 pens is equal to $7.20. To figure out the cost of 3 pens, you want to divide by 4. And when you divide by 4, that's $1.80. So that's for 3 pens. Now you need 3 pencils. So you know the 16 pencils, and that costs $4. So here you can find a unit rate by dividing 16. You get that 1 pencil would cost 4 over 16, or 1/4 of $1, or 25 cents. And then you can multiply by 3 to get the cost of 3 pencils. And 1/4 times 3 is 3/4 of $1, or 0.75 cents. So you want to do $1.80 plus 75 cents. And you get choice B, 225. So here you have 2 proportions, or 2 ratios, and you could just solve by dividing both sides by the same number. Next, from number 8, find the area of a trapezoid if the height is 17 meters and the parallel sides are 25 and 37 meters. So you just draw a trapezoid. Height is 17, and the 2 parallel sides, which is the top and the bottom, are 25 and 37. So the area of a trapezoid is equal to 1/2 base 1 plus base 2 times the height h. So you'll have to substitute in the variables into this formula. That's going to be 1/2 25 plus 37 times 17. That's 1/2 of 62 times 17. And half of 62 is 31. So you just have to do 31 times 17. The answer is choice A, 527. You can also estimate to get to the answer. Next one, number 9. How long must a rectangular bin be to hold 1,800 cubic meters if the width is 10 meters and the height is 6? So if you want 1,800 cubic feet, that's the volume, because that's how much it can hold. And the volume is length times width times height. So you don't know what the length is, but the width is 10 and the height is 6. And that should be 1,800. So if you divide both sides by 60, that'll give you the length, and 180 divided by 6 is 30. So that's going to be choice A. Next, for number 10, Lindsay is 5 years older than Greta. The sum of their ages is 95. How old is Lindsay? So here you have this age problem. And for this question specifically, you need to create a couple of equations to substitute and then solve. So the first sentence says Lindsay is 5 years older than Greta, so L is 5 plus G. And the sum of their ages, that's G plus L, is 95. So from here you can do a substitution step. Instead of L, you can replace L with 5 plus G. And when you combine like terms, G plus G is 2G plus 5 is equal to 95. And from here you can subtract 5 on both sides. Get that 2G is equal to 90. And when you divide by 2, you get that G is equal to 45. Now once you know that G is 45, substitute back in to solve for L. That's going to be 5 plus 45, or 50. So the answer is going to be choice D. You could check your work by doing 50 plus 45, and that is in fact equal to 95. Next, for number 11, Casey works in a department store. One of his benefits is a 20% discount on all items he buys for himself. Now, Casey paid $54 for a new coat. What was the price before the discount? So we don't know the price before the discount. We can call that P. Now you take P and you take 20% off. When you take 20% off, you're really paying 80% of the price, P, and that's equal to 54. So this 80% you get from doing 100 minus 20. Because if you save 20%, that means you'll have to pay the remainder, or 80%. So when you take 80% of P, that's really 4/5 of P is equal to 54. To solve for the variable P, you can multiply both sides by the reciprocal, 5/4. And that's going to cancel out the 5 in the denominator and cancel out the 4 in the numerator. So on the left side, just have 1 times P, which is P. And on the right side, 54 and 4 can cross cancel. You get 27 and 2. And then 27 times 5. You got 135, and 135 you can divide by 2. And you have 67.5. So that's going to be choice D. The original price was $67.50. If you take 80% of that price, you will only get, you only have to pay $54. And here is the summary for this page. Next, for number 12, a rectangular shaped box has a length of 2x plus 6. If the area of the box is 1/2, what's the width of the box? So you have this box, and the length is 2x plus 6. I don't know what the width is. Call that W. The area happens to be 1/2. So that means that 2x plus 6 times this width W is equal to the area, which is 1/2. And from here, you have to divide by 2x plus 6 on both sides. Now you have this complex fraction, which is just a fraction inside a fraction. And to solve for W, you can rewrite this complex fraction by doing keep, change, flip. That's 1/2 divided by 2x plus 6. So you have to change, flip, which will turn into 1/2 times 1 over 2x plus 6. And when you distribute the denominator, you get 1 over 4x plus 12. And that's choice E. Next for number 13, in triangle MNO, the square of the length of segment MN is equal to the square of the length of segment NO added to the square of length segment OM. If angle M equals 25, what does angle N equal? So here you want to draw this triangle MNO. And the key here is to figure out that this is actually a right triangle, because the square of MN, which we can call A, actually, let me redraw this. So MN we can call C, because that's the hypotenuse, is equal to the square of line segment NO, which you can call A and B. Now, angle M is 25. You know this has to be a right angle because this is just Pythagorean. So then angle N is the missing angle, which has to be 65 because you have 90 plus 25. That's 115, and 180 minus 115 is equal to 65 degrees, choice C. Next, for number 14, prior to the opening of a new amusement park, Ronald has been asked to construct this irregular staircase represented by the darkened segments pictured on the previous page, so right above. If all of the stairs are to be constructed at right angles, what's the total length of the darkened segments? So this just means perimeter. But this perimeter is only for the staircase. So it's only this piece. So it's not really the perimeter, you only want the staircase. Now, you don't know any of those individual lengths, but you do know that they're all right angles. So all the vertical parts, all the vertical pieces, if you actually slide all of them over, if you add them together, they will equal A for all the vertical pieces. Whereas all the horizontal pieces, if you slide them downward, they're going to be equal to B. So if you add all the pieces together, you just end up with A plus B, which is choice B. Next, for number 15, define the symbol by the operations below. M symbol N is equal to 3M plus 2, where M is positive, but M symbol N is equal to 2M plus 3N, where M is not positive. Which of the following is or are positive? So I have to go through all the choices. So this is your function. And a function is just a fancy word for an input-output machine. So in this input-output machine, you can have these two rules. Now, M is the first number. So in Roman numeral 1, M is positive. So if M is positive for Roman numerals 1 and 2, you'll want to do 3M plus 2N, the first rule, because M is positive. So this would be 3 times the first number, 2, plus 2 times the second number, 3. This would be 6 plus 6, or 12. So that's positive. So go through all the choices. B is wrong, because it doesn't have Roman numeral 1 in it. Now for Roman numeral number 2, M is still positive, so this would be 3 times M, which is 3 times 2, plus 2 times N, which is 2 times negative 3. In this case, you have 6 plus negative 6, or 6 minus 6, which is equal to 0. So that's not positive. So C is wrong, and E is wrong because it has 2 in it, and 2 is incorrect. So we're just down to choice A and D. Now, to differentiate between those, you'll have to solve for Roman numeral number 3, which says if m is not positive, you have 2m plus 3n. So you take 2 times the first number, which is 2 times negative 2, plus 3 times the second number, or 3 times 3. That's going to be negative 4 plus 9, which is equal to 5. And 5 is positive, so the answer will be choice D. So here's the summary for this page. Next, for number 16, a printing press used up 28.8 gallons of ink over a 3-day period. If 1/9 of the ink was used in the first day, twice that amount in the second day, how much ink was used up in the third day? So you used up 1/9 the first day, then you double that, that's 2/9 the second day, and the rest of that has to be used on the third day. So far, 1/9 plus 2/9 is equal to 3/9, or 1/3. So that means the third day, they must have used up 2/3 of the total. So to find 2/3 of the total, and this number represents a total, you'll have 2/3 times 28.8. So you can do 28.8 divided by 3. And you have 27 first. So that's going to be 9.6. And then you have 9.6. You want to multiply it by 2. So that would be choice A, 19.2 on the third day. Next, for number 17, 10 seconds is what fraction of the number of seconds in 1 day? So 10 seconds is the is, and the is represents the part. The of represents the whole. So this of is this whole number of seconds in 1 day, and the 10 seconds is the part. So this is just part over whole, or is over of. So this would be 10 seconds divided by the number of seconds in a day. Well, in 1 day, it's 24 hours, and each hour is made up of 60 minutes, and each minute is made up of 60 seconds. So the answer is going to be 10 over 24 times 60 times 60. Now the 0 will cancel out with one of the zeros, so you just have to do 24 times 60 times 6, and 60 times 6 is 360. You need to do 360 times 24. You could put the 0 at the end. Then 12. And you put that last 0 there. So that's going to be 1 over 8640. And that's choice C. Next, for number 18, assume that a and b represent integers that do not equal 0. A to the 4th plus b cubed is equal to 0, and a to the 5th plus b to the 7th is equal to 0. Which of the following inequalities best represents the values of a and b? So a and b not equal to 0, but you do know that a to the 4th plus b cubed is equal to 0. Now from here, you know that a to the 4th, this has to be a positive number, because any number to the even power is positive. That means that b cubed must be negative, which means that b has to be negative. And then from the second piece, you have a to the 5th plus b to the 7th is equal to 0. So again, b to the 7th would be negative, because we'd already established that b is negative. And a negative number raised to an odd power is equal to a negative number again. So that means that a to the fifth must be positive. Now, if a to the fifth is a positive number, we know that a must be positive. Because a positive number to an odd power is positive. If a were negative, then this would be negative plus negative, which can't be 0. So we know that a is positive. It's going to be bigger than 0, which is bigger than b, which is negative. So just to summarize for number 18, a negative number to an odd power is negative, whereas a negative number to an even power is positive. Next, for number 19, a company holding a poetry writing contest had originally decided to award 3 prizes with an average value of $150. Upon reviewing the poems, however, the company realized that 4 of the poems were deserving of a prize. Of those 4, 2 were clearly better than the other 2. The judges decided to maintain the total amount of prize money, but have 4 winners. The author of the superior poem would receive twice as much money as the authors of the lesser quality poems. What was the amount of money given to each of the 4, the first place winners? Now here you have an average value of $150. So it's 3 prizes with $150 each. So if the average, as you know, is equal to the total divided by the number of data, in this case, the average, is 150. So that's going to be the total divided by 3. If you multiply by 3 on both sides, the total prize money would be $450. Now, to split this $450, you have 2 winners that were better and 2 of the lesser ones. And the higher quality, the superior poems, you can call them better poems for B, would be twice as much as the lesser poems, which is L. So each of the better poems would be equivalent to 2 of the lesser poems. So you have this $450, that's a total. The 2 first prize winners would be $B each. And then the 2, the third and fourth place will be L. Now you know that B is equal to 2L. So if you substitute in 2L here, you would have 450 is equal to 2L plus 2L plus L plus L. So first and second place would be twice the third and fourth place. And if you combine like terms, you get that 650 is equal to 6 times L. So if you divide by 6 on both sides, this would mean that the lesser prize is equal to $75, and the better prize, the bigger one, is double that, or 150. So the first place winners would receive $150 each, which is choice B. So here, you can check your work. You have $450. The 2 first place winners would be 150 and 150, which would be 300. Third and fourth would be half of that, or 75 and 75. And that's another 150. So essentially the third place prize got split into 2. Next, for number 20, a developer built 2 cube-shaped swimming pools. The adult pool had a side equal to square root of 8, and the children's pool had a side equal to the cube root of 8. The volume of the adult pool was how many times larger than the volume of the children's pool? So when we have a cube-shaped pool, the volume is going to be side to third power, or S cubed. So for the adult pool, the side is square root of 8. So the volume would be side cubed, or square root of 8 cubed, which is root 8 times root 8 times root 8. No, square root of 8 times square root of 8 is just equal to 8. And the square root of 8, you can actually simplify it to 4 times 2, or the square root of 4 times the square root of 2, which is equal to 8 times 2 times square root of 2, or 16 root 2. That's the volume for the adult pool. Again, you have to use the properties of square root of a times b is equal to square root of a times the square root of b. And then next, for the kiddie pool, you have the side is equal to the cube root of 8. So the volume will be the cube root of 8 times cube root of 8 times cube root of 8. Or you do the cube root of 8, and you raise it to the third power. That cancels out with the cube root. So the kiddie pool just has a volume of 8. So if you compare 16 root 2 versus just 8, the difference between 16 root 2 and 8, if you divide, that's just equal to 2 root 2. Now, I don't see that as an answer choice here, but you can unsimplify 2 root 2 by rewriting 2 as the square root of 4. And this would be the square root of 8, which is choice D. So that requires this law of exponents, because the square root is really an exponent of 1/2. So this is really a law of exponent that can be applied. Square root of 8 is equal to 2 root 2 when you simplify it. You have to use the formula for the side of a cube, or the volume of a cube. And then you find the two volumes and you divide over here, and you just simplify. And here is the summary for this page. Next, for number 21, the sides of a quadrilateral have lengths of 4x plus 5, 6x minus 10, and 12x minus 9, and also 2x plus 2. The average length of the sides is 15. What is the greatest difference between the lengths of any two sides? So the key word here is average, and average is the total divided by the number of data. So the total means you have to add everything up. 4x plus 5, 6x minus 10, 12x minus 9, and 2x plus 2. So if you add everything up, you have 24x, and this is 7 minus 19, which is minus 12. And this is the total. Now if you divide it by 4, because you have 4 sides of this quadrilateral, the average is 15. So this is the equation that you're trying to solve. From here, you can multiply both sides by 4, and you get that 24x minus 12 is equal to 60. And you can add 12. You get that 24x is equal to 72, which if you divide by 24, you get that x is equal to 3. Now, once you know x is equal to 3, you want to solve for the sides of the quadrilateral to figure out the difference between the biggest and the smallest. So if x is equal to 3, you have 4 times 3 plus 5, which is equal to 12 plus 5, or 17. Then you have 6 times 3, or 18 minus 10, or 8. Next, you have 12 times 3, or 36 minus 9, which will be 27. The last piece will be 2 times 3, or 6 plus 2, which is 8. So the difference between any two sides would be 27, the biggest side, minus the smallest side, which is 8. And 27 minus 8 is 19. So the answer is choice A. Next, for number 22, the figure shown here depicts 2 intersecting lines and 4 angles created by that intersection. Which value below must equal 180 minus b? So when you have these straight lines, you have what are called supplementary angles. So a supplementary angle, they add up to 180 degrees. So if you look at the first part, 2b plus a, this would be equal to 180 degrees. And here, if you want to solve for 180 minus b, you'll have to subtract b from both sides. And 2b minus b is just equal to b. So you know that b plus a is equal to 180 minus b. And that's choice C. So that would be your answer. There are a lot of other ways to express 180 minus b, but this is the most direct way because we just have 2b and a. You also can do 2b plus 3c is equal to 180. And if you subtract b on both sides, you get that b plus 3c is equal to 180 minus b. But I don't see b plus 3c as one of the choices. So you can only do supplementary angles to this and this pair. Next, for number 23, one side of a triangle has a length of 8 and another side has a length of 11. If the remaining side of the triangle has a value that is an integer, what are the smallest and largest possible perimeters of the triangle? So in a triangle, if you have 8 and 11, and the missing side is x, you have what's called triangle inequality. And the triangle inequality theorem states that if you add two sides of a triangle, it must be greater than the third side. So a plus b is greater than c, a plus c is greater than b, and finally b plus c is greater than a. So just go through all the choices, you can come up with your inequality for x. So 8 plus 11 is greater than x, 8 plus x is greater than 11, and 11 plus x is greater than 8. Now that third inequality is always true because 11 is already greater than 8, so 11 plus x, of course, is greater than 8. So you have those two inequalities. 8 plus 11 is 19, so x has to be less than 19, but 8 plus x has to be greater than 11. If you subtract 8 on both sides, you get that x is greater than 3. So the side x has to be greater than 3, but less than 19. Now it must be a whole number because it's an integer. So that means that x could be equal to 4 or x could be equal to 18. So the two triangles you can have, the two extreme triangles are 8, 11, and 4, and also 8, 11, and 18. So the perimeter for the largest and the smallest would be 12 plus 11, or 33. And then for the other side, you have 8, 18, and 11. So in this case, the perimeter would be 26 plus 11, which is 37. Sorry, this would be 23. So the difference would be from 23 and 37, which is choice E. So for number 23, the key was triangle inequality theorem, which works for all triangles. If you add two sides of a triangle, it has to be greater than the third side. We can apply it to find the two inequalities here, which will give you all the potential values for x. You just pick the ones that will make the perimeter biggest and the perimeter the smallest. So 4 and 18 respectively. Next, for number 24, where g raised to m power is equal to 8, then 8 times g is equal to, so 8 you can replace with g raised to the m power. So you have g to the m times g, or g to the first. That's going to be g to the m plus 1. You add the exponent, so that's choice E. This is this law of exponent that states that if you multiply two exponents to the same base, you need to add the exponents. So you just substitute and apply this law of exponent here. Next, for number 25, Ms. Meeks was forced to withdraw 1/3 of her money in the savings account. On April, she withdrew 1/5 of the remaining. And at the end of April, the account had $8,000 in it. there were no other transactions during these months, how much money was in the account immediately prior to the first withdrawal? You don't know how much money she had, so you can call that M for money. And first she's going to withdraw, take out a third of M, which means there's 2/3 of M remaining. And then after that, she'll take out 1/5. That means there will be 4/5 remaining. So you'll have 4/5 of the 2/3 of M. And this is equal to $8,000. So 4/5 of 2/3 of M means multiply. So you have to do 4/5 times 2/3 times M. And that's going to be 8/15 times M. That's equal to 8,000. So from here, you can multiply both sides by the reciprocal, which is 15/8. They'll cancel out with all the other factors on the left side, which will give you just M. On the right side, the 8 and the 8,000 cancel out. So you have 15 times 1,000, or 15,000. And that's choice A. So here is the summary for this page. Next, for number 1, 16 meters of wire weighs 0.8 kilograms. How many meters of this wire will weigh 2 kilograms? So here you have your proportion. 16 meters is 0.8 kilograms, and you want to go from 0.8 to 2. So to do that, you can divide by 4. And if you divide by 4 on both sides, you get that 15 meters would weigh 0.2 kilograms. And from here, if you multiply by 10, you get that 150 meters is equal to 2 kilograms. So that's going to be choice E, 150. Next, for number 2, the marks on this number line are evenly spaced. What number does the mark at point P represent? So from 2 to 5, you have a distance of 3. And you can divide this into the here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 equal pieces. So if you do 3 divided by 10, each of these would represent 3/10. Now I have to go 3 of these 3/10. So that's also just 2 plus 0.3 plus 0.3 plus 0.3, and that would give you 2.9, which is choice D. Next, for number 3, Leonora is thinking of a secret number. In this sequence, she subtracts 5, multiplies with 5, adds 5, and then divides with 5 to get 2002 as her answer. Don is thinking of a secret number. In this sequence, he adds 5, multiplies 5, subtracts 5, and then divides by 5 to get 2002 as his answer. What's the sum of their 2 secret numbers? So let's start with L. So I don't know what the number L is, but for Lenora, she subtracts 5, then multiplies by 5, and then adds 5, and then divides by 5. And you get 2002. So to solve for this number, you have to do the opposite. So first you'll want to times 5 on both sides. So you get 10,010. Then you want to subtract 5 on both sides. So you get 10,005. Then you want to divide by 5. You get 2001. So finally, L minus 5 is equal to 2001. L would be 2006. And then for Don, first he adds 5, and then multiplies by 5, and then subtracts 5, and then divides by 5. And this is 2002 as well. And here you have to do the opposite. So you have to multiply by 5 first. And then you have to add 5 here. That's 10,015. Then you want to divide by 5. That would be 2003. And then d plus 5 is equal to 2003. Subtract 5 on both sides, and you get d is 1998. And then you want to add the two numbers, so 1998 plus 2006 is 4004. Next one, number 4, the length of a rectangle is twice its width. The perimeter of the rectangle is 48 centimeters. In square centimeters, what's the area of this rectangle? So you draw a rectangle, and you know that the length is twice its width. So if you have the width of W, the length is going to be 2 times W. So if you add everything up for the perimeter, which should be equal to 48, that's W plus W plus length, or 2W plus 2W. So that means that 6 times W is equal to 48, or if you divide by 6, the width is equal to 8. So once you know that the width is equal to 8, the length would be 2 times that, or 16. So this rectangle has a length of 16 and a width of 8. So the area is going to be 16 times 8, or twice d, 128. Next, for number 5, in professional baseball, the distance between the from the pitcher's mound to home plate is 6 feet 6 inches. How many seconds does it take Roger Clemens' 98 miles per hour fastball to arrive at home plate? So here I have to round to nearest hundreds. Now you know that the distance is 6 feet 6 inches. So I want to convert everything into the same unit. So 60 feet 6 inches is really 60.5 feet. Now the rate or the speed of this ball is 98 miles an hour. And from here you can convert 98. If you know that 1 mile is 5280 feet, 98 miles will be 5280 times 90 feet. Now that's in 1 hour. Now you want to go from hours to seconds, because units are in seconds. So you know that 1 hour is equal to 60 minutes, and each minute is equal to 60 seconds. So that's going to be 3,600 seconds. So the speed is going to be 98 miles an hour, or 5280 times 90 divided by 3,600, and this would be in feet per second. So you can cancel the zeros here. And then the 9 cancel up with 36 to give 1 and 4. And 528 you can divide by 4. And this would be 132. So this would be 132 feet per second. And the distance is 60.5 feet. So to solve for time, or t, you know that because distance equals rate times time, time would be distance divided by rate. So you want to do 60.5 divided by 132. So here, 132, of course, doesn't go into 60 at all, but 132 goes into 605. You can estimate about 5 times. That would be 660, so that's a little too much. So you would have 132 times 4. That would be 528, and we subtract. And you have 770, and you can try 132 times 6. So 6 is a little too much, so it'll be 0.45. And the closest choice to about 0.45 is choice B. So there'll be about 0.42 seconds. Next, for number 6, the dimensions of a rectangle box are given. Ross uses duct tape to secure the box, as shown. Each of the 3 wrappings extend completely around the box, and there's no overlap at the end of each wrap. What length in meters of the duct tape is required? So you have 3 wrappings here, and you just have to add up the 3 rectangles. So the first rectangle looks like this. And you have 0.5, 0.5, with 0.6 and 0.6. Those distances. So wrap number 1 would be 0.5 plus 0.5 plus 0.6 plus 0.6, and that would be 2.2. Now wrap number 2 is the same as wrap number 3. So you could just double the distance here. And this would be 0.8 twice. And then 0.5 twice. So 2 and 3 would be 0.5 plus 0.5, but with 0.8 and 0.8. That would be 2.6. You have to do this 2 times. So if you add everything together for meters, that would be 7.4 meters, or choice B. Next, for number 7, the height h in meters of a bottle rocket t seconds after its launch is given by the formula h is equal to negative 9.8 t squared plus 120 t. Between the second, and 5th second, how many meters did the rocket rise? So you want to solve for t equals 2. All you have to do is substitute in t the variable 2 for t. That would be negative 9.8 times 2 squared plus 120 times 2. And when t is equal to 5, that would be negative 9.8 times 5 squared plus 120 times 5. So this would be negative 9.8 times 4, and negative 9.8 times 25, plus 240, and this would be plus 600. So from here, you can subtract these 2 differences. So you can actually estimate about 10 for the 9.8. So this would be about negative 40 plus 240, which is about 200. And this would be about negative 250 plus 600. This will be 350. So the difference between 200 to 350 would be about 150. And choice A is the closest to 150, so that has to be the answer. Okay, and here is the summary for this page. Next, for number 8, 2002 squares, each with an area of 36 square centimeters, are placed next to each other in one row to form a rectangle. What is the number of centimeters in the perimeter of this rectangle? So the area is 36 square centimeters, so that means that the side is equal to 6, because 6 times 6 is 36. Now, when you place them next to each other in a single row, you know that for the first square and for the last square, you have 6, 6, and 6. And then for the 2,000 squares in the middle, you only add the top and the bottom for the perimeters. So for 2,000 squares, each of these would be 12 that will contribute to the perimeter. So you have 2,000 times a 6 on top and a 6 on bottom, which is 12. So that would be 24,000. Now for the squares on the left and right, that would be a perimeter of 6 plus 6 plus 6, or 18, and 18. That would add another 36, and you got choice E, 24,036. Next for number 9, Liberty has X quarters and Y dimes. Morgan has Y quarters and X dimes. In cents, how much more money does Liberty have than Morgan? So quarters are 25 cents, that's 25X, and dimes are 10, so that's 10Y. Morgan has Y quarters, or 25Y, plus X times, which is 10 times X. So you want to subtract here, figure out how many more. So you'll have to do Liberty, which is 25X plus 10Y. You want to subtract 10X plus 25Y. When you subtract 25X minus 10X, that's equal to 15X. And 10Y minus 25Y is minus 15Y. From here, you can factor out 15 to get 15 times X minus Y in parentheses, which is choice A. Next, for number 10, ABCD is a 10 by 10 square. M and N are midpoints of sides BC and CD. MP is perpendicular to AN at point P. Rounded to nearest tenth of a centimeter, what's the length of MP? So it's a 10 by 10 square, and M and N are the midpoints. So that would be 5 and 5. And MP is perpendicular to AN at point P. So from here, you have a couple of right triangles. So for triangle AND, you have a triangle where one side is X, and the other side is 10. So you can set up Pythagorean here for a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So you'll have to do 5 squared plus 10 squared, which is 125. And c is equal to square root of 125. Or the square root of 25 times 5, which is 5 root 5. Now for triangle MCN, this triangle is a 45, 45, 90 right triangle. So the sides are going to be the ratio of x, x, and x root 2. Just one of the special right triangles here. So it's to be 5 root 2. And triangle BAM is also has a hypotenuse of 5 root 5. Now for this larger triangle, you know that M to P is perpendicular to A to N. So here you have another, you can create another set of Pythagorean triplets, or Pythagorean theorems. So we have most of the sides that are figured out for this triangle, but we still don't know the length of MP. That is the height of this triangle inside the square. So we do know some of the different sides. They are right triangles, and it helps to actually then figure out the area. Now, because we can figure out the area of the 3 triangles that's around the triangle in the middle, we can subtract from the total area, which is 100, it's 10 by 10, to get the area of just the triangle here. So for triangle BAM, the area is 10 times 5 divided by 2, or 25. The area of triangle AND is also 25. And the area of triangle MCN is 5 times 5 divided by 2, or 12.5. So we figured all that out by using the formula for the area of the triangle is 1/2 base times height, where base is perpendicular to height. Now from there, if you add 25 plus 25 plus 12.5, you would get 62.5, and that means that if you take 100 minus the 62.5, you get the area of the remaining, which is inside the shape, So this orange triangle will have an area of 100 minus 62.5, which is 37.5. Now this area of 37.5 is equal to 1/2 the base times height. So the base is 5 root 5, which we figured out from before. And the height is what we're looking for, so that's just h. So the next piece that we need to do is to figure out what is 5 times the square root of 5. So to solve for 5 root 5 without a calculator, you would have to unsimplify this, and this would be the square root of 25 times the square root of 5, or the square root of 125. Now the square root of 125 is between two perfect squares, square root of 121 and the square root of 144. Square root of 121 is 11, square root of 144 is 12. So you know that the square root of 125 has to be between 11 and 12. And because 125 is only 4 away from 121, the square root of 125 is going to be approximately 11.2. So just 11.1 or 11.2, just a number close to the 11 than the 12. So let's use 11.2 because that's a even number, or it's even because we'll be dividing it by 2. So the area is 1/2 times 11.2 times h. And 11.2 divided by 2 is equal to about 5.6. So you know that the area of 37.5, which is a triangle area, has to be about 5.6 times h. So if you divide both sides by 5.6, you get the height is going to be about 37.5 divided by 5.6. So if you move the decimal over, you can just erase the decimals. It'll be about 375 divided by 56. And 56 goes into 375. You can guess about 5. That's 280 and then 6. So it will be 6, and 6 times 56 is 336. So when you subtract, you have 39. You have 390. 390, if you try 56 times 7, is about 392. So it will be about 6.7. And that's choice E. So again, for number 10, you have to use Pythagorean theorem and special right triangles over here, 45, 45, 90, to figure out the length of the sides of the triangles, of the 3 right triangles, because we do have a square. But once you do that, then you take 100, which is the total area, subtract the area of the 3 triangles to figure out the area of the triangle in the middle, which then you can use 1/2 base times height, because you figured out the base. It's 5.5, 5 times the square root of 5, and all you have to do is figure out this height, h, using 1/2 base times height, which is the formula for the area of a triangle. Next, for number 11, you have to use 4 distinct or different digits to form a 4-digit number who does not end in a 0. Reverse those 4 digits and write a second 4-digit number. What is the maximum possible difference between these two numbers? So at the write a 4-digit number, let's say 1, 2, 3, 4. Then you reverse them, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you subtract, and you want to find the difference. And you want to make this difference the biggest. So if you just try 1, 2, 3, 4, it's just a test. That would be 3,087, so that's not that big of a difference, because you just have 1,000, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. So essentially here, you want to make this difference bigger, you want to make sure that this is large, while the first 2 digits are kind of small, because then the last 2 digits will be small. So you want to make sure the last two digits are really big and the first two digits are really small, and they have to have distinct numbers. So you just employ the guess and check. So 1 and 2 could be the first two digits, but it doesn't have to end in 0, because we can use 0, you can make the first two digits just a 1 and a 0. And then the last two digits have to be really large. So instead of 34, we can have the biggest number, which will be 89. Because that way, when you flip it around, you have 98. And then instead of 1, 0, you'll have 0, 1. So when you subtract, 98 is your largest. And then 1, 0 is your smallest. So you just subtract this way. I have to borrow twice. And you'll get 2, 1, 7, and 8. So that's 8712, which is choice D. And this is the biggest possible one. Unless you end it in a 0, which you're not supposed to. Next, for number 12, the inside of a cylindrical storage drum must be painted with the paint that costs $18.60 per gallon. The diameter of the drum is 5 meters and the height is 3.4 meters. 1 quart of paint covers 6.5 square meters. How much does it cost to paint all the inside surfaces of the steel drum, the side, top, and bottom? So that you only pay for the amount of paint actually used. So when you have a cylinder, you want to do the surface area here. And when you open this up, you get 2 circles followed by a rectangle. And the surface area for this cylinder has the radius of r, and the circumference of the lid is actually the width. So this is the circumference, or 2 pi r, and the height is just h. So the area here is 2 pi r h. So you have the surface area is 2 pi r h, sorry, not 2 pi r squared. The surface area will be 2 pi r h, this is a rectangle, plus 2 of the pi r squares for the top and the bottom. So we have the diameter is 5, so the radius is 2.5, and the height is 3.4. So we can solve for the surface area. So the surface area will be 2 times pi times the radius, which is 2.5, times the height, which is 3.4. And you want to add this to 2 times pi times the radius of 2.5 squared. So you have 2 times 2.5 will be 5. So you have 5 pi times 3.4. And you want to add it to 2.5 squared. That's going to be 6.25 times 2 pi. So that would be the total surface area. And now you know that it costs 1 quart of paint covers 6.5 square meters. So you have to take the surface area and divide it by 6.5. And that's going to tell you how much paint you've used. So here it helps if you have a calculator, but if you want to do this by hand, you can. You can also just estimate, because you are looking for the answer. Well, actually, the answers are pretty close to one another, so estimating wouldn't work, so you'll have to use a calculator for this one. So using a calculator and using 3.14 for pi, you get that the total surface area will be 92.63 square meters. And from here, you have to divide this by 6.5 meters to figure out how many quarts you need to use. So 1 quart is equal to 6.5 meters. You know that, or square meters. To get x quarts, to get 92.63 square meters, you'll have to divide 92.63 divided by 6.5. And that will give you X to be 14.25 quarts. Now you want to convert it to gallons because here you have 1860 per gallon. You know that 1 gallon is equal to 4 quarts. So you have to do 14.25 divided by 4, and that will give you 3.562 gallons. And then you'll multiply 3.562 times 18.6, which will give you about $66.26. And that's choice A. So here you have to find the surface area, figure out the number of quarts of paint you have to use, and take the quarts of paint divided by 4 to get the gallons, and then multiply by $18.60 a gallon. Next, for number 13, the points x comma negative 5 and 2 comma y are on the number line that contains negative 14 comma 7 and 10 comma 1. What does x plus y equal? So you have a line that contains these 2 points, so you'll have to use the equation of a line to solve for, or to get the equation of a line. So here you can first find the slope. And the slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. That's going to be 7 minus 1 over negative 14 minus 10. That's going to be 6 over negative 24, or negative 1/4. So that's the slope. Once you have the slope and you have a point, you can substitute into y equals mx plus b, the equation of a line. So y would be 1, the slope is negative 1/4, x is 10, and then you can use this to solve for b. So 1 would be equal to negative 1/4 times 10, which will be negative 10 over 4, or a negative 5 over 2, plus b. If you add 5 over 2, or 2.5 to both sides, you get that b is equal to 3.5. So now you have the slope, you also have the y-intercept. The equation is now y equals a negative 1/4 x plus 3.5, or plus 7 over 2. So once you have the equation of a line, you know that the points x comma negative 5 and 2 comma y are on this line. So if you substitute in these numbers into this equation, you'll solve for them. So to solve for the y, you know that 2 comma y is on this line. So the y will be equal to negative 1/4 times x, or 2, plus 7 over 2. And that's equal to negative 0.5 plus 3.5. So that's going to be equal to 3. So this is the point 2 comma 3. So y is equal to 3. And then to solve for x, you have to substitute in negative 5 for the y. So that would be negative 5 is equal to negative 1/4 x plus 7 over 2, or 3.5. Here you subtract 3.5 on both sides. You get negative 8.5 is equal to negative 1/4 x. And you have to multiply both sides by negative 4. So 8.5 times 4 is 34. And the 2 negatives will cancel out, so you get that the x will be equal to positive 34. The point will be 34 comma negative 5. So to add the sum, x is equal to 34, y is equal to 3, so 34 plus 3 is equal to 37. And that's choice D. So for number 13, you have to use the slope and also y equals mx plus b to solve for the line, and then just substitute in to solve for x and y. Next, for number 14, a square with an area of 40 acres measures 1/4 mile on each side. A forest fire burns 48,000 acres. How many square miles is that? So here you have 1/4 mile, or 0.25 times 0.25, which will be 0.0625 square miles. that is equal to 40 acres. Here, this forest fire burns 48,000 acres. So that's equal to x square miles. So this is your proportion that you can solve because all the units are now matched up. You can just cross multiply. You'll have 48,000 times 0.0625, and that's equal to 40x. Then to solve for x, you want to divide by 40. And the 40 cancels out, one of the zeros cancels out here, and 4 cancels out with the 48, and you get 12. So you just have 1200 times 0.0625. And when you multiply 1200 times 0.0625, you get 75. So that's going to be choice A. Okay, next for number 15. For number 15, the expression x minus 3 cubed minus, in parentheses, x cubed minus y cubed is equivalent to. So here, the first thing you have to do to simplify this is to simplify this x minus 3 cubed. And that means you have to do x minus y cubed. That will be x minus y times times another x minus y. So when you have two of them, you just FOIL. So that would be x squared minus xy, and a plus y squared. So that would be x squared minus 2xy plus y squared. And from here, you'll have to multiply by this last x minus y. So, and you have to be careful here. First, you'll have to do the x squared term times the x and times the negative y. That would be x cubed, and then x squared times negative y is minus x squared y, because it's positive x squared times negative y. Then you'll have to multiply the middle term, which is negative 2xy times x and times negative y, which will be negative 2x squared y. And negative 2xy times negative y will be positive 2xy squared. Then after that, you have the last piece, which is positive y squared times the x times the negative y. So it'll be positive xy squared, and y squared times negative y will be negative y cubed. So from here you have some like terms. That'll give you x cubed minus 3x squared y plus 3xy squared minus y cubed. Now from here you want to subtract x cubed minus y cubed, and that's inside the parentheses. So you have to distribute this negative 1. So what you're really doing is you're subtracting x cubed, and then you're doing negative 1 times negative y cubed, and then you're adding y cubed. So that's going to help you cancel out the x cubed with the negative x cubed, and then the negative y cubed with the positive y cubed. So you only have these two terms left. Now from these two terms, you can factor out 3xy. So if you factor out 3xy, in parentheses you have negative x and plus y left. So the final answer will be 3xy times negative x plus y. And here you can use the commutative property of this addition to reverse negative x plus y to y plus negative x, or y minus x. So the final answer is 3xy times y minus x. That is choice B. So you have to do a lot of factoring for the last one and distributing a negative sign. So you have to be careful with the signs. And here is a summary for this last page. Okay, thank you everyone for joining me today. Enjoy the rest of the day, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. All right, bye everyone.